Welcome to the Do That Music Thing podcast, hosted by Christopher Foust and presented by 1840 Music Group. This is the podcast where we dive deep with the people pushing the music industry forward, whether it's managers making bold moves, promoters breaking new ground, lawyers changing the game, or artists blazing their own trail. We talk to the folks making it happen. Every episode is packed with real-world stories, strategies, and tactics you can use to grow your own career in music. If you're looking to break through or just stay sharp, you're in the right place. Let's get into it and do that music thing.
Got a really awesome guest. His name is Anthony DeChristo. How's it going, brother?
I'm good. How are you?
Man, I'm awesome. And I'm really excited to get to talk to you today. We found each other on Threads.
The thread bait.
Yep, Thread bait. And if you're not familiar with Threads, get familiar with it. It's a great place to start meeting people in the industry and kind of promoting yourself. But Anthony has a really interesting background and a really interesting proposition and opportunity for new artists. So before we dig into that opportunity, I want to hear more about how you ended up where you are, because it sounds like you've got a story that a lot of us have where we start off doing one thing and then we kind of just roll with the punches and take the opportunities that are given to us and we arrive. So give us your story, Anthony.
Yeah, I mean, like most people, it starts back as a teenager, typically listening to bands like Blink-182 and like, oh, I love to do this, And then going to MySpace, just having that first little hint of like success, 1,000 streams on MySpace overnight, which, is just super cool. And it kind of, it sucks you in. You're like, oh yeah, I could do this. And so, you grow, you learn. I wasn't like a great musician back then. And so I really kind of like, okay, I need to, hone this down, and started my first band. And I got really big into promoting and just building off of it in social media with that. Just out there, hustling CDs back in the day, outside when people were coming, leaving the crowd was leaving the show. And from there, I got, into photography, and I shot like at Vans Warped Tour a couple times. Got to do a couple cool things, like with Alternative Press Street Team. And then there was a startup called Crowdmix in the UK. And unfortunately, they fell apart because, terrible financing and, dealing with that. But cool opportunities for somebody that was trying to grow and break into a scene. And I think in the long run, the way it really panned out was I worked with this band Holocene for like the longest time. And you build those connections over time, and you really grow with people. And then when somebody makes it, and you have been by their side and stuff, they kind of like tag you along. And it, led me to artists that, I probably would have never worked with before, and to where I am now, where I'm trying to like build a collective that's for newer artists to come in and give them tools that they might not necessarily have. And then also give them insight on like what I like to say is like brand, story, and content. And your brand is your image, your identity, and your story is that movement and culture that you're trying to, foster and cultivate around that, into the content that's actually going to get you out there in the world and do what you're going to do.
That's awesome. And what I love about what you're doing though is you're focusing on a piece of the business that a lot of artists don't particularly like to do. And that is content production.
Oh, it's a pain.
Love it, hate it. It's here. And if you want to compete, you have to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I could say as somebody even like in the game, and, I've always loved content to a degree and the promotion of social media. But I also, I hate posting content too, like it's not my favorite thing to do is set up my camera and then, kind of plan out what I'm going to say. And then on top of it like that's for me, it's my job. So it's a little bit easier. But for an artist who goes from like writing a song to recording it, to refining it, to practicing it and focusing all their attention on this art, and then you're like, well, now you have to create content around it and you have to keep using those muscles, to do something completely that's, might be out of your realm. A lot of people don't understand what to do, and it just kind of leaves them throwing stuff against the wall.
So, as far as, you know, what are some of your favorite strategies though, for capturing content? I know personally that was always kind of like the trick, right? Like, what is the easiest way for me to get content, to record it, to capture it? Like, what's one of the most effective strategies that you've seen people in the music industry collecting content?
So what I've noticed is a lot of like the bigger players that have blown up outside of maybe like somebody using their sound and creating a dance, but then that dance becomes something of its own that people just copy and it blows up. But if you think of that, that's a series. It's just a series of different dancers doing it. So if you can create a piece of content around your music or your brand and what you're doing and create a series, um, I worked with Lauren Babick. We did the Misplaced Scream series and has millions and millions of views. Holocene, who I worked with and got them on TikTok, they did their An Octave Higher for no reason. Um, Cameron Whitcomb, Dizzy is Dead. They're two friends who are doing skits together. And, like skit content into performance. Boy with Uke, he did his whole series on, like a demo. What kind of song should I write? So people, typed in the comments. He wrote a song about that. And so, like, creating a series around something makes it scalable, it's repeatable, and it kind of makes you familiar. People know when they come to you what they're getting. Like when you look at my page, people know what they're going to get when they see me sitting on the couch and they see that warm lighting and the background, which is behind me. Just it doesn't look as good because I'm on my computer, but people when they familiarize themselves with what you're doing, it tends to make them want to stick around a little bit longer.
So what you're essentially saying though is that your content is really an extension of your brand.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, if you have a brand, you have an identity, you have a story, a movement, and then you create the content based on what you're doing. I just came up with this random thing for Fender. I was kind of exercising my brain, and I looked through, like Fender. When you think Fender, you think, Telecaster, you think these bright, fun summer colors. And I was like, I made a video today just as like a little experiment. It was Fender Bender Crash Course. They set up a pop-up tent outside of venues of touring bands that are Fender, backed bands, and they come outside and their fans can line up and they can try to learn their favorite songs from one of their favorite bands and then utilize that content. And hey, you might find some crazy kid who just shreds on guitar and then they invite them up and it creates this whole just experience for the fans, for the band. It makes Fender look really cool, that they're creating interest that, can create these moments. And it just gives this like summertime, almost like Warped Tour vibe, you have the pop-up tents.
Man, I miss the Warp Tour.
Oh, I do too.
I used to go all the time. I'm here in Nashville. I know you're not too far away, but we used to go to the Warp Tour, Starwood Amphitheater all the time, and right after that era was the whole MySpace thing, right? You mentioned MySpace earlier, and it's really crazy to see how social media has evolved so much from this really in my sweet little millennial heart, what is the pure version of social
Yep.
media on MySpace? No toxicity. I mean, maybe a little toxicity, but not a lot of
I
toxicity.
mean, I think the toxic parts were like the bulletins, like if you don't repost this, something bad's gonna happen to you in like 5 days or whatever. But
Oh, the good old days. But how do you think, what's coming next? Do you have any ideas about where artists should kind of get ahead of the game?
I'm really big into the idea of guerrilla marketing still. I came from no social media background to promoting in person, and then social became big. And now I think after COVID, where everybody was locked down and stuff, and touring is making its comeback, like it is big, but like it's rough out there for artists. So like the I guess the economics of it all is kind of bouncing back still. I think people kind of miss that, like in-person feel and actually connecting more than anything. We're connected to everybody around the world all at once, but we're so disconnected all at once at the same time. So I really think getting out there and talking to your fans and promoting at shows that are bigger than yours again and kind of pulling that social aspect of maybe, street interviews and stuff, but like make it wholesome, make it fun. And I always say, like, don't always try to post, to a million people. Make something that a million people can post. And it's going to take you so much farther than, anything one person could do.
That is some incredible advice that I'm going to take to heart. Thank you.
Of course.
Let's talk a little bit though about, monetization, right? I know that when you're making content, it's it's different outcomes, right? You're going to make
Yeah.
one piece of content for promoting your music, another for engagement of a specific audience, maybe another for an endorsement video. But there are some, you know, potential revenue streams so you can monetize your content. Let's talk a little bit about that and how artists can, utilize that sort of background.
I mean, so like YouTube, I think it's right now 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 hours watched. So I mean that is a steep hill, especially as an artist. Because I think if you do shorts, it's like 10 million views within 30 days, which could be easy and also could be really hard. Like, one video could do that, but then also you might just be grinding for a year and you might never hit that. Um, TikTok has their monetization program. I At least I believe they still do. I'm not sure with the how everything's going in the political world. I know Instagram has one, at least for U.S. citizens. I'm not sure how much they've expanded. Um, but I think one of the problem with the monetization of social media is it's so hit or miss in niches. So I mean, like you might be a pop artist and you could do better than like a metal artist based off of, like your revenue stream just because of the type of people who watch it, you know? Um, and it's the same with streams. When you look at all the different platforms, it's more or less the same thing. Is like every single platform has a different monetization tool and only gives you so much based off of how much, you're actually bringing people in and feeding it. Um, but I think the best way if you wanted to monetize based off of content is kind of like doing what I'm doing, where I'm creating, my ecosystem and my community around Discord and like, maybe a Patreon and bringing actual people who are interested in you and want to see those behind the scenes that maybe otherwise might not do well where you post on TikTok, of you actually messing around and having fun. The good, I guess, story content of like actual stories like Instagram stories, TikTok stories, um, and making them a little bit longer and more frequent and use that for, subscription tier, whether it is like a couple bucks or 20 bucks, depending what you're offering. I think as if you can bring people in and they can care about what you're doing and the culture behind it, there's definitely means to build revenue off of, socials into something else that is more scalable in a way that, you're not worrying about just making money off streams or ad revenue.
So that's almost like you're building content for the whole like super fan idea then, right?
Yeah, I mean, everybody says, and I 100% agree with this, you better to have 1,000 people who will pay 50 bucks throughout the course of a year than, like a million streams. It's going to get you so much farther. I think it would take actually about 10 million streams on Spotify to be close to reaching that.
It's a common business practice, or maybe not practice, maybe I don't know, like a saying that it's easier to keep a customer than to create a new one. And I think that, that's kind of the concept of the whole super fan, right? Like you find your fans, you feed them the content that they want, and then you kind of keep them in the ecosystem, right? So what are some tactics that you've also maybe utilized outside of social to engage in those super fans?
Like as like a musician, would you say? Is that what you
Yeah, or a musician, or some strategies that people that are musicians could
I
utilize, or
think just being personable, like just going out, being a genuine person, building a genuine connection, talk to people, go to, people complain about, oh, nobody goes to my shows and stuff. Well, go to shows. Go to shows of bands that are like you. Reach out to that community, reach out to those bands, build something, together. And I mean, that's how you're going to actually create those super fans. Like when I started my first band at 18, I would pass out those CDs and then people would follow us on social media. And then I would talk to them like on socials constantly. see how they're doing, see what's up in their life. And then when it came to ticket sales, they didn't feel like I was just selling to them as they were just like somebody to buy. They were a part of the community that I was building and fostering. And so if you want people to care about you, you have to care about them equally. And I know that's hard when you think about scale, but like you have to be engaged. You can't just sit there and kind of passively do it. Like what I'm building is I'm in my community every single day. It's sure it's small right now, but I'm also in my community. I'm in my DMs. I'm bringing value to brand new artists without even asking for a penny from them. And then being like, hey, like if you have value, felt value in this and it, meant something to you, I do offer this. And if you don't have, money right now, money's tight for everybody, come join my community. And so like I'm working on building up that, free part of it for people to actually come in and engage with each other. And that's also where though later on people are gonna, if you did the same thing, they'd be like, oh, well, I'm part of this free community, but what's on the other side? And what more is there? Because I mean, they're doing awesome here and they're engaging. So, what else is there?
It makes me think of one, you know, piece of advice that everybody gives to people moving to Nashville that like 5% of people actually take to heart and those 5%, do fairly well is it's go out, network, as I know it's a dirty word, but go out and meet people and be a good hang,
Yeah.
you
Don't
know?
go out with the intent of taking something from them. Just go out with the intent of actually having a good conversation.
And that's one thing that I've been able to do personally, just from like a personal strategy is I've started in the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks, this new series where I just, you can call it a hot take. It's not really a hot take type of series, but where I just talk about my favorite whatever. So I talked about last week was like, what's my favorite sounding record, right? Like not necessarily my favorite, but which one sounds the best in the headphones. And the engagement that I got on that, I didn't put anybody down, right? I'm just talking about what I
Yeah.
like and what I love about these records. And it started a really cool and fun, positive engagement. I didn't just stop by posting. I had people comment theirs, and then every single comment that's popped up, I've responded. Oh my gosh, I love that album. This track sounds awesome. So it's inadvertently just kind of like building this music nerd network.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's fun for people because then they, like I said, series, they know you from it. And then they want, they're passively scrolling. They see you again and be like, okay, what's his take on this one now? And they know if they comment, you're going to say something back too.
Well, it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's turned into fun for me, right? And one thing that a lot of people talk about is getting over the whole immediate cringe factor. You know? Like it's when you write
Yep.
your first song, you think your first song
Yep.
was a hit? No, it was absolute trash and garbage. Everyone's first song is horrible. And it's that cringe factor. It's like that with social media, except it's you got to kind of like find yourself. So talk a little bit about that, getting over that hump.
I mean, I still think I'm there where like I sit in front of a camera and like I know what I'm going to say and then I don't know what I'm going to say. And so, I mean, a lot of that comes with the comfortability of editing something and just making the content flow. But you got to think as somebody who's fresh and new and you're just starting out, it matters what you post in a way, but it doesn't matter because you haven't built your audience yet. Nobody expects you to be perfect, and nobody actually cares about you being perfect. You know, like I can talk on how to make great content all day long, but also you could do the right things and it might just be the weirdest video you've ever posted that's the one that hits and goes viral. And so like don't be afraid to enjoy the process. Like just be you, be comfortable, treat it like a camera, like we're having this conversation right now and let it flow. Like I'll admit it, I sit down and I talk to Chat GPT like it's my homie and my wife makes fun of me. Like she'll come in the room, who are you talking to? I'm like, oh, the computer, but having that kind of, you talk through your emotions and what you're thinking and your feelings and your ideas, and then just you see the feedback and then you talk again. And it kind of helps a little bit with that idea of it's the same thing talking to a camera. You don't get that feedback right away, but you can rewatch it and see what you liked and didn't like, and then you could do it again. But it's like releasing, yeah, you're releasing your first song. Russ said it best. You just got to get out of your own way and do it.
Now I have a new question about why haven't I named my chat GPT? Why haven't we named them? Like my chat GPT's name is Frank. Okay, I'm gonna go do that this afternoon. I'm gonna figure out a cool name for my chat GPT. Um, awesome. Well, Anthony, let's dig in a little bit in detail about what you're launching,
Okay.
who it's for, and what those folks can expect out of this new platform.
I mean, so it's for everybody. If you're brand new starting out, you'll get more out of it than somebody who, maybe has a built foundation and knows what they're doing. But at the end of the day, it's still community. And when you do if you hopped into like any kind of paid service or paid tiers, I have tools and outlines from day one to help you try to make money, to creating content, to like, YouTube strategy, to what other TikTokers are doing. We kind of touched on that today. Um, and I'm just adding to it. And as people ask, I try to add to it more. And so, I mean, like a year from now, you might log on and you would have like 50 to 100, who knows, outlines. And sadly, some of them might be irrelevant at the time. So I might have to go back and start deleting things. But, it's just, I'm trying to just create a good space for artists that help artists and don't get stuck into, shady deals and contracts especially when they're too early. They don't know what they're doing. They might not have even money for a lawyer to actually look at the contract, because it's hard when like you think somebody's handing you your dream, you just want it. And the problem with the industry, and at least, a lot of how it used to be versus now, where I think labels kind of have that idea of, okay, it's a little bit harder to just give somebody that, like, oh, we're just going to sign them, give them their dream, and they're going to go out on tour and sell t-shirts and do that, because there's a lot more information on the internet. There's a lot more people talking. And, I think they have gotten a little bit smarter on that, but like, I still don't want somebody to fall into that trap of like, a 360 deal. I don't want them to get $10,000 and then not be able to pay it back and get shelved. Um, it ruins your dreams before they even have a chance of actually coming true. So it's a no contract plan to where you could work with me and you can build and grow, or you can just take what you want from it at the time and then you go do it on your own. But at the end of the day, it's really just about, building that community and saying, hey, like, the industry needs to be fixed.
I love every bit of that. And if you're an artist out there, or maybe if you're a content creator, reach out to Anthony. He's on social media, super active. I love his content. But this is my favorite part of the episode on Do That Music Thing, and it's where I get to ask the guest, what are 3 actionable items you would give to, say, a new artist in your case? What are 3 actionable items you would give that person to move their career forward?
If it was 5, I'd say the Infinity Stones. uh, I mean, we touched a lot on it. I think you got to be personable. You got to be willing to have those conversations and go out and hustle. It's hard work. You're building a business. It is art, and you can love that as much as you want to love that and hold it dear and close to your heart, and as you should, because you created it and it wouldn't exist without you. Um, but it is a business. But then touching on the art part, it never has to be perfect. It wouldn't exist without you. So get out of your own way, get out of your own head, and release the song. If you're a photographer, just start posting the photos. If you're a videographer, just go out and film some bands. Like, get out of your own way. And I would say my favorite would be, remember, it's the name of my brand. It's art over algorithm. Enjoy every bit of it, and don't get too caught up. I mean, if you're getting started, like, go to YouTube. like I never went to college with any of these things. I went out and I practiced and I learned from other people. And I think honestly, your biggest tool is other people and just networking and learning from everyone around you. You know, Everyone's trying to get better every single day. You get better every single day. And then, someday you'll turn around 10 years from now and somebody will be looking up at you and you'll be doing the exact same thing. You'll be like, all right, here's what you could do. Here's how you can, learn and grow.
I love that. Anthony, thanks for coming on the show, man. Really appreciate it. And where can everyone find you?
Everything at Anthony DeChristo are all my ats for my personal. Artoveralgorithm.com too. You can find my socials there as well. And I think if you search Art Over Algorithm anywhere, it'll be like either Art Over Algorithm Collective or AOA Collective.
Awesome. Well, Anthony, appreciate it, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Do That Music Thing podcast. To learn more about me, the host, Christopher Foust, you can catch me online at christopherfoust.com, on Instagram at chrisfaustmusic, or on Twitter at chrisjamesgtr. If you'd like to be a guest on the Do That Music Thing podcast, please feel free to email me at chrisfaustmusic@gmail.com. If you're a fan of the show, head on over and leave us a 5-star review. Thanks for listening. I'm Chris Foust. Let's go do that music thing.